All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. Today we have a very important topic and also a very important guest to talk with us about this topic. Today we will travel to South America and focus more on education in South America and specifically in Colombia, focusing on the idea of decolonizing education and the constructs of identity and bilingualism in South America, and again with a focus on Colombia. And to talk with us about Colombia and South America, we have a very special guest, as I said. Um, we have Dr. Miguel Martinez Luengas, and Miguel is a Latino educator. He has a master's in teaching English as a foreign language. He is a doctor in education, majoring in education in English as a foreign language. His research areas deal with decoloniality, critical interculturality, subject positioning, bilingual education, and teacher research education, among others, I'm sure. And he is also a teacher and researcher at UNICA Institution grad programs in Colombia, South America. Miguel, welcome.
Many thanks, and such a pleasure to be here to, learn something about us, okay?
All right, we're really excited to speak with you about this amazing part of the world and the education system there. So let's dive into the questions, and let me start with you about the concept of coloniality and decoloniality in South America. So how does this concept of coloniality shows or manifests in South American education systems?
Yeah, well, I have been teaching English language here in Colombia, South America for more than 14, 16 years, and I have been seeing many different coloniality aspects related to education, and not only education, but research in the curricula, in evaluation, including in the education system, especially because um, some external entities are supporting, our bilingual programs or our, teacher education system, especially because they are confronting our ideas, our local ideas, and they want to generate in us some conditions which are not really appropriate for us, which are not really suitable for us. Example, it's different when you are teaching in a rural area here in my country than teaching in a urban area, in the city. For that reason, those external entities are, like immersed into our local practices. And I think at this specific time, the coloniality is evident, okay? Because there is a foreign, system including here into our global system. Why global? Because we are thinking globally, but we are acting out locally. So this is the first reason, especially about coloniality, and we have we have been resisting about this let's say assumption, and the question is how can we resist or maybe adopt some ideas. And I think to say that the best way is to continue having dialogues, conversations, and of course mutual perspectives between educators, and not only educators but with the whole community, students, directives, among others. So the first step for me, into the decolonial project in the ELT field, in the English language teaching field, is to have an open listening environment between educators and between the whole community. This is the first step, and I think later we can have like more insights about others, let's say no techniques and no activities, but maybe possibilities or uncertainties.
That's great. I think maybe we jumped too early into that question, and our viewers maybe not very familiar with the Colombian context and the South American context when you talk about coloniality and decoloniality or decolonialism now as an emerging theme of research in South America. So maybe give us a little bit of background of Colombia and this idea of bilingualism in Colombia, how many languages are there? Is it a bilingual country? And also the concept of why do we have a concept of colonialism or coloniality and decoloniality?
Great. Thank you. And yeah, by the way, yeah, pretty much we need to start talking about our realities. And here in my country, mm, we have the English as a foreign language. It's not a second language. This is the first, the first step, because our second languages are the indigenous ones. We have more
Mhm.
than 180 indigenous languages, and not only languages but cultures here in
Yes.
Colombia. So it means we are immersed into a bilingual context, but not
Mhm.
about English, about our native languages,
Mhm.
indigenous ones. So indigenous is the second one, but English is a foreign language. So
Mhm.
that is the first, situation that I would like to put on the table. However, the second one deals with the use of the language, if you allow me to use that expression, use of language, or let's say how the language is managed here in Colombia. When I'm talking, the language is English, and
Mhm.
English here is seen, most of cases, of course, not every single time, but most of time is seen as a very, let's say, neoliberal perspective. Okay,
Mhm.
when the language is, directly immersed into the context, it seems something about competition. It seems something about the winner. It looks like you need to learn the language for doing something. Okay, and that's the second situation that I can, perceive, that I can see here in my country. But the another one deals with our realities, as I mentioned before, our local assumptions. We have been suffering a lot here in my country from war. We have been, like, uh, uh, we have been in war for more than 70, 80 years. Yeah. And we are, South American third world country, which is pretty much something difficult, especially because different aspects such as poverty, social conditions, transformations, education, among other ones. And I think this can affect, the use of the language or how you manage the language, and especially between coloniality and decoloniality. With
Mhm.
these three aspects, we as educators, in the English language system teaching process, we assume different challenges, several
Mhm.
ones, and
Mhm.
especially very, you know, uh, real perspective that we need to face on inside and outside the classroom. Maybe with these three ideas, it's a little bit better, much better, the, contextualization about my country, and
Mhm.
especially in our field.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for clarifying this to us. Um, My understanding is that South Colombia and also South America, as in the big picture, they suffered from years and years and years of colonization and some erosion of indigenous language, or at least attempts to erode indigenous languages in favor of Spanish, right? And then there is a key new player emerging in the game, which is English coming in and trying to destabilize Spanish in South America. Um, we can argue whether it's successful, not successful, what's happening there. But the idea of having indigenous languages as actually second languages amazes me. They used to be first languages, and now they are second to Spanish. And now there are more and more activists trying to revive indigenous languages and revitalize indigenous languages in education in South America and in Colombia, I'm sure. So my question to you is, what is the when we talk about English as a foreign language now, so what are the effects or the impacts of colonial legacies on language policies in Colombia and also teacher education?
Great one. And I tend to say that our legacy is directly, impacted over the North and West perspectives. Okay, so here I'm talking about the English language, system, because from an yeah sure let's say parenthesis, because in the indigenous languages is totally different, it's like contradictory. Our native language, indigenous ones, but my mother tongue is Spanish because of
Mhm.
Spain and because of colonialization, and it's quite strange. But well, let's take that part like aside, because I would like to mention something relevant about our legacies, in plural legacies, because I think it's not just one. I would like to mention that from UK, from US, from North, from West, many people are coming here, but not just the subject, not just the human, but everything. When I'm
Mhm.
talking about everything is, their knowledges, their culture, their
Their systems, their
all the system
policies. Yeah.
and the policies and system that you asked are imposed in here for just one truth, one reality, and one perspective. Okay, so we have no options. There is no space for a binary. Yeah, maybe a binary process, but not as a possibilities or a wide range of options. So it means that we as learners, we need to be adapted into those systems, especially in a bilingual program. The bilingual program was created here in Colombia from a very north-west perspective. Okay, what do we need for learning English? Okay, let's talk to American people, British people, European, but they are not asking us what is our main purpose. Okay, but if you ask me, in policies, they want me to continue in just one line, into just one path. What path? A very different to my reality, to my concern, and that's something that I usually problematize, constantly. Perhaps it's a good idea to have, as I said from the very beginning, dialogues, conversations, a joint, a group of local scholars for thinking about it, because I'm afraid that's not our future intention, to continue a path, to follow just one idea. We need we have here many realities and diversity, many options. And we need to take advantage of that. But absolutely, to answer the question directly, is like, yeah, we have many policies. Unfortunately, our policies are, imposed by very different perspective, very different to our local thoughts, desires, positions.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate, but also interesting and thought-provoking. So in the context of bilingualism in South America and Colombia, let me ask you, how does bilingual education contribute to the process of decolonizing education?
Well, I'm now, in the way of creating a network of local scholars in the bilingual area, in the bilingual process. And yeah, there are challenges, contributions, and many options. However, I tend to say that the bilingualism national program which is the huge program here in Colombia, imposed, directly given from orders, external ones, to our, practices. I think that program should have something about our localities, our local perspectives. But the main aspect is to share our ideas. That's the first movement that we need to do together. But the program, yeah, is something very interesting is that the program has like a return into our realities. How? They are not called now bilingual, the bilingual program. It is called now intercultural education. So that's beautiful. That's amazing because we have, one way, which is bilingualism, the bilingual education into interculturality or intercultural education. And that's fabulous, but it's pretty new. I mean, it was starting like, I don't know, 8 months ago from the beginning this year. However, our network, which is the bilingual, multilingual network, is working together with the Ministry of Education to combine, the ideas from bilingual, intercultural in just one, okay? Because in my concern, they are not separate. I mean, they need to be together. They need to be joined. Why? Because, I mean, it's the same sense, it's the same way, it's the same goal. The aim is to protect our cultural diversity, to protect our languages, to continue working between teacher education, local teacher education, and yeah, the two perspectives, bilingual, interculturality into one. But I think this is the first movement that we need to, step in, and work in that.
Mhm. That's great, and I really like the when you describe the name of the program as intercultural education. This is great because at the end of the day, you cannot separate language from culture, right? They kind of go hand in hand together. Um, Detaching language from culture is meaningless, right? So it's yeah, I really like that. All right. So, um, from your perspective, how do you envision teachers co-constructing their identity as teachers from South America or from Colombia who are bilingual, who speak indigenous languages, who have diversity and diverse cultural backgrounds in the context of colonialism and bilingualism?
Yep. I uh, I was checking the last podcast, the one that you recorded with a colleague, and you were talking about identity construction, co-construction in teacher education, and it was fascinated to identify some similarities, but mainly some gaps and maybe challenges that we have not we have not we haven't had in common, and that's amazing because it means about education. It is not just to look at similar aspect, but maybe some differences. And I tend to say the first aspect in identity construction, co-construction, deals with a very ethical position. Um, Bakhtin time ago mentioned the ethical position is related to discourses, the analysis, and of course, mutual perspectives. And the ethical position is not just being in the other shoes, it means to represent myself from a very ontological position as well. Ontology deals with the desires, emotions, among other aspects. But the ethical is like here, Miguel, myself, being not just in the shoes of other teachers, but in their realities, in their opportunities, in their diversity options. So I would like to add in teacher identities, in plural. I would like to say that the ethical way represents, like a huge impact in the identity construction. How? Because you as human, you are adapting, including, immersing into perspectives, and those perspectives should be real ones. They don't need to be in a very ideal way, more real than ideal. I think that's something, like, catching my attention the most in the teacher's identity, including, of course, other aspects such as the epistemology, the knowledge of in the system, in the process, in the way, the ontology that I mentioned before, of course, ourselves, as educators. But yeah, uh, if you ask me something like, very intriguing into identity is the ethical assumption, and maybe it can be helpful in the construction together.
Mhm, mhm. And the context of Colombia makes it really interesting to discuss the concept or the construct of identities, as you put it in plural. Um, because one thing you said that's really inspiring is that the ethics or the ethical consideration about constructing or reconstructing or co-constructing identities is that they are representing realities, right? Realities that make sense to teachers, not only theories or imagined identities, right? Um, so I think this is really important. I just wanted to highlight this in what you said. The relative relatedness of these reality or these identities to the day-to-day life and the nature of or the context of education that he immerses in, right?
Uh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I
No,
would like
no.
to say, yeah, I would like to say something that is, matching into the comments, into our
Mhm.
lines, and it is that it's very, challenging to see our EFL, English as a foreign language, classes, for example, in public schools here in Colombia, in schools in Colombia. And it's extremely beautiful to see how uh, teachers or other side, foreigners, teachers from Europe, from US, from Canada, different parts of the world, they are coming here to teach English language, to give a lesson in English language. But they have, the expertise, to teach. They have their credentials for teaching. However, it's really difficult for them. I could say that because I have had the opportunity to be, a class observer, and my doctoral thesis was about observation, and I had the chance to see, their practices. Foreigners, English language teachers, foreigners practices here in our local, realities, in our local assumptions, and it's, like something, amazing to see how they, with all the, great perspectives, great expertise they have, they sometimes they can't. They can teach the class because it's extremely different, and challenging. And well, the word is not difficult, but it's very demanding. Okay,
Yeah. Difficult in what sense?
yeah, difficult because I think they usually have ideal students, the ones who pay attention the most, the ones who are paying attention about their performance, students who care about, their education process. But here, sometimes, of course, and some of them, students don't care about that. Students don't care about education because they have other needs, such as I said before. poverty, they need to eat. They are not in the school because they want to learn, because they want to eat. You say, no, but it's not possible. Yeah, it is. And I had also the beautiful chance to teach in a public, school here in Bogota, the capital, Colombia City. And yeah, most of my students were in the school not just for learning, but for having fun, for eating, for being in a different environment to their homes, to their houses, and for a I think for a foreigner it's not easy, because they assume they are in class for teaching, for expressing, giving their opinions about the importance, the relevance of learning a language. But no, okay, some of us don't have this dream, to learn English, to go to another country, to speak with another foreigner. Maybe our dreams are, more related to, once again, to our ontological position, to our desires, our emotion. So for that reason, for us, is like quite challenging, to teach and to learn English as a foreign language. I'm sorry the interruption, but
No,
I
no,
think it
you
can it could match.
this was a very important point. Thank you for speaking about that. And it's such a revelation, right? So sometimes teachers, because this speaks to me sometimes when I travel abroad to teach, and then you discover that it's not only the subject matter that you're teaching. It's much more than that. There is the cultural aspect included. There is the social aspect included. The backgrounds of your students. Everything affects your classroom. It's not only about grades and progress. It's, as you mentioned, the realities that you're being now part in. You need to understand those realities to be able to do your job successfully and to understand your students and their needs, right? Yeah. All right. So I know you have so many things to do. So let me ask you two more questions, I promise. So the let's talk about the future of bilingualism in Colombia and South America.
Yes. Mm, well, the first step is done, which is pretty much have a conversation between ELT educators,
Mm,
between teachers,
mm,
and now we are having conversations also with the students, and why not in the future with directives and stakeholders, maybe for the programs and for everything. But from the very beginning, we wanted to, to have some, let's say, mutual perspectives between towards teachers, ELT teachers, EFL ones. That was the first step. So the second one is, like starting working in from a very critical and decolonial project in the network, in the bilingual network. And how is that so? Maybe that's the question. Well, we would like to see the bilingual from a political and social perspective,
mhm,
of course, cultural one, but not only in the educational aims, in the educational object. However, the education represents, of course, like something beautiful, and some families here also in my country want their children, speak a beautiful English, and maybe with great intonation, accent, and pronunciation. That's another way. And for us, I'm afraid we don't pay too much attention on that. However, it's important, for some people, and we really respect that. But the point is that bilingual into a very, let's say, local area,
mhm,
and
mhm,
it is on the social transformation,
mhm.
very critical.
Yeah.
Criticality is there, social
Mhm,
transformation. social justice, inequalities, identity, identity construction, diversity, among other ones. So we have an umbrella, not to cover, of course, that's not our purpose, but to reflect upon how English or the bilingual program, the bilingual project could be, immersed into a social transformation specific area, or into social justice. Yeah.
Mhm.
But how about bilingualism? Talking together identity construction, or diversity,
Mhm.
inequality, equity, some different aspects are, very related to criticism, okay? Because it's not usual for us in Colombia, basically because I mentioned before, from a very rigid, structural, and positivistic structure of learning a language, very rigid, traditional, which is not bad. This is not about, good, minuses, pluses, good, bad things. No, of course not. This is not a binary system. You know, it can be a rainbow, not a gray color, but maybe a rainbow. Because of diversity is immersed into
Mhm.
bilingual perspectives. And I think that's the future, okay? To, position ourselves as local researchers, as local EFL teachers, and let's start, talking about the possibilities. What possibilities we have? Many. And,
Mhm.
demanding ones. Again, social justice, social transformation, diversity, inclusion, identity, and those aspects, if we analyze, are like, having like an opposite resistance over the structurality, over
Mhm.
the traditions, over the positivistic way to see the things. One
Mhm.
reality, one truth, okay?
Mhm.
And we
Mhm.
have many, many, many different ones. I think that's the future, but of course we need to work together, as a team,
Mhm.
because one person can make it very fast, faster. But in group, we can have many options, many possibilities, and we can go beyond further.
Thank you. And I think you kind of answered my last question, which is how can educators and institutions work towards decolonizing education, especially in the field of English language teaching? Uh, yeah. Would you like to
Yes,
add something?
no, just one aspect which is a little bit, confusing for me time ago. When I started my PhD studies, it was contradictory to study or to establish a thought of decoloniality in the decolonial project, and I'm an English language teacher. I don't know if it happens in your country or in your realities, but it's like contradictory because many colleagues that I have, especially in the social studies, they say like, "But Miguel, you were studying to be an English language teacher. I mean, yeah, why you are, following the idea of a decolonial project? I mean, it's like contradictory because, as you know, and I don't know if people here know, but the English language represents in culture, in knowledge, in many yeah, in some instances, like a power, you know, what knowledge, culture. English language is very, let's say, not aggressive, but it's like something hard, to adapt into a decolonial project. That's my first perspective that I said, oh my God, I'm an English language teacher, but I would like to adopt, to inquiry about decoloniality. And well, how about our network, uh, our teams, yeah, how can
Mhm.
we continue these lines? Well, the first process is from a very intercultural, not competence, but ability, assumption, is to listen to the others. Okay, I think in the interculturality, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to be next to decoloniality within the interculturality, but I think they are together. You know, Catherine Walsh and Paulo Freire thought us some years ago, so many years ago. But yeah, um, Paulo Freire, a Brazilian thinker, Brazilian educator, time ago mentioned the relevance of constructing together the practice and the theory, and that's praxis. And I think, not to answer the question, Amr, but to reflect upon your idea, the last one here, is how can we implement praxis into my practices, my teaching practices? How can I, adopt my knowledge within practice into one way? Okay. And when I'm talking about the practice, is not only what things can be done with my hands, but maybe with my heart, with my feelings, with my emotions, and of course with my history. Because teaching a language, teaching or learning something new is not only about linguistic repertoire. It means other, aspects, close aspects. There is a friendship between emotions, beliefs, uncertainties, possibilities, challenges within the knowledge, within the expertise. So basically, to answer the question more, reflecting about that is, yeah, the coloniality deals working together, including interculturality, including, our ontological perspectives.
Mhm.
Again, what we feel, what we are, who we are, what we are doing, what we can, think about possibilities. And I think there is like a bricolage, if you allow
Mhm.
me to use that. Bricolage is like many, many things together in not one aspect, in many ones. Okay, but it's like getting from something that we really need and we really want. Because
Mhm.
and I'm finishing. I'm sorry. Something is what we need, but something is what we want. Okay, and in teaching language education, EFL, English foreign language, and the ELT field, something is taken for granted. We need something, but uh, we are we are working for something. Okay, I think that's pretty much what I think about it.
Miguel, thank you so much, and thank you for teaching us about the education in Colombia and South America and important concepts like decolonialism. And I think this was really helpful for me personally, and I'm sure for the viewers to learn more about the context of Colombia and South America. Thank you so much, Miguel, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and see you on the next one.
Thank you very much. Okay, for the whole community, my pleasure. And we'll keep in touch. Of course, anything you need, please just let us know. Okay. Bye bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.